In building the system that would bring about these more jobs or moving the nation forward, what are the criteria that government should be looking at?
Well, again, my position is government should not be 100% job creation, but just maybe create programs now that will, jumpstart the system.
That's like the program Sulai was talking about.
Yes.
You're taking us back to programs.
Talking about programs, what do you make of You Win?
You Win. I don't know. I think the jury's out on that. To address what you said, in terms of my own idea of how we could do things, for example, we can't talk about manufacturing or production. We don't have the power. We don't have the infrastructure to do this. If we want to get youth involved and we want to create jobs for youth, I think we should look more in the short term at the service sector.
So we're going back to infrastructural development.
Infrastructure is necessary, but it takes time. Let's be honest. I mean, Nigerians should be honest. Power creation, power generation, power distribution takes time.
And you do not agree that in the short term, You Win is one of the things that can actually, bridge the gap while we're waiting?
Yeah, I'm talking about bridging the gap. It's important that we bridge the gap, but it's not going to be manufacturing, for example, because that's infrastructure dependent. But the service sector, for example, it's a growing sector. And if you look at the service sector, you take someone who just graduated from school, wants to offer some kind of service, you find out that 20 to 50% of their cost will be in terms of office space, in terms of facilities like internet and so on and so forth. So why can't government at federal and state level create business incubation centers, for example, where they aggregate internet access, aggregate access to computers, cheap office space. You bring a business plan, it makes sense. You give you space for like 12 to 18 months, so that those basic costs are carried by the pooled infrastructure, so you can offer your service. You make some money, you move out. It's happening in Singapore. It's working very well. You have so many technology centers where you can see the results. Government can do that, but to set up an enterprise and hire 50,000 people when you're not sustaining the ones you already have properly doesn't really make
bring
sense.
the Singapore experience as well as some other Asian countries which once upon a time were never there, but they're there now, and we'll look towards them. Some other Nigerians will also argue that we should learn to prioritize things. Now, in order for you to get to that Singapore experience, some other issues need to be addressed. For instance, the power problem. So the man who has some kind of small business to start off because he's got some little fund or he's got some ideas to kick off such a project is handicapped because of lack of power.
Yes, of course, it's handicapped. And when you're putting up your business plan, if your business plan depends on power and the power is not there, it's not a viable business plan. And one of the things I say to people, people come to me and say, look, Sam, I would like some money to do something. And I say, go and produce a business plan. The business plan doesn't mean you must go ahead. Sometimes the business plan says, don't do this now, because you don't have what it takes to do it. Maybe in terms of infrastructure, maybe in terms of funding, maybe in terms of management. So there are some things that are not doable. If you want to create an auto industry, for example, let's assume we had the technology. You want to create an auto industry, it's almost 100% dependent on power. We don't have that. The infrastructure to create your power would make your produce, whatever you produce, unaffordable. I'm running my consulting firm in Abuja. I pay almost as much as I pay for salaries to run the generator, to pay for fuel.
So if you were not doing that, for instance, what would you have done differently with such monies?
Well, if I wasn't spending so much on infrastructure, trying to do things that should have been there, I'd probably be recruiting more people.
And that's creating jobs.
Absolutely. I probably would be, would expand my geographical reach. That's creating more opportunities, more jobs. I shouldn't be talking about running my business in Nigeria at this stage. I should be all over West Africa. That's what ECOWAS is all about. But I'm fighting for survival because of infrastructure. And everybody's having the same problem. You have the same problem here.
So you do not think, so far government policies or programs, let me be more specific, because it's easier for us to focus on the programs. These are the things that we can see, and actually government's direct intervention, as it were, in trying to alleviate poverty. You don't think that they've been able to do what they're supposed to do so far?
They're trying, but it takes time to do these things.
It's time to implement. I'm sorry, I'll have to crave your indulgence. I'll have to go back again to you, Win, because this is something that the federal government is optimistic can actually help youths be creative, can actually help, get them busy, and they can actually think about a host of things and be ingenious and come up with things that people never thought was possible, and give them access to loans to start off what might be a small business.
Well, you see, you mentioned that earlier, and I said, and I'm saying the same thing I said. I think it's a great program. I thought it was ingenious. I thought it was different. But I have not yet met one person who's applied for that. If you have any examples, I would like to know. I really would like to see how the youth have taken advantage of that program. I don't know, so I can't speak about what I don't know. But as far as initiatives go, it's creative. I thought it was ingenious.
But assuming you do find somebody, you don't think that person will possibly come up against challenges that still bother big business people or even medium-scale business people that someone like you in business is still facing? Well,
yeah, they'll come across those challenges. Here's what I say about leadership. Effective leadership is not about saying, oh, this is the reason why I can't do what I wanted to do. Effective leadership is about doing what you should do in spite of the challenges. Okay? And I think that's where we should go. Everybody can say infrastructure, like I'm saying. Infrastructure is a problem. So if I was to start my business again, I would look for something that would play down on infrastructure to that extent, what I cannot control, so that I can do more of what I control. I can run my business and run government's business, for example, at the same time.
The president's call for policy and indeed ideas, let's use ideas that will help create jobs, is likely to be affected by certain factors: political stability, the rule of law, government incentives, private enterprise, and all that. Now, do you think with this call for policies and ideas, do you think government is ready with the basic things that those ideas and policies can sit on?
I sincerely hope so. I mean, it's important to mention here that I don't speak for government. I wouldn't know. I'm also anxious that we can create jobs. I think if government, it's the will. It's the will. It's if it's a priority. If they're not just saying it because
if there's a will, but the basic infrastructure is not there.
Well, again, we keep coming back to infrastructure.
When I say infrastructure, I'm not talking about just the solid physical things we see. Infrastructure in terms of government policy, government incentives, and, for instance, adjustment, the land reforms, and all that. These are all infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a book I read about by a guy called De Soto, and he's talking about foreign aid into all this, developing nations and so on and so forth. And he says, look, we have more money under our mattresses than all the money we've gotten in foreign aid in the last 20 years, for example. He's probably right. So infrastructure is necessary. If I have a piece of land in my village and there's no geographical information system about it, it's useless as collateral. All of these things need to be done. The government officials should be empowered to take decisions, reduce the decision-making time so it works. Interest rates, another critical aspect. If interest rates are high, I mean, what's the point?
Well, you have seen that one of the dailies had it that interest rates are not going to come down anytime soon.
There are underlying factors behind interest rates being up. And this is what government has to look at. And government has to look at it urgently. I would say, for example, if you just came out of school and you wanted to start a business, that's the riskiest time to start a business. That's the riskiest time for your plan. And you go and get a commercial loan at 20% interest rate. You're literally dead already. Okay. Maybe we should have access to things like venture capital. Maybe we should have access. And I've been hearing things like the Securities and Exchange Commission talk about venture capital. These are sort of innovative ideas we need to get the young people. There's tremendous energy, there's tremendous passion and creativity, and we need to unleash that. Government can.